From Julio Cruz and Gaylord Perry to Alvin Davis and Harold Reynolds to father and son back to back bombs. From Junior J, Joey, and Edgar with Randy, A-Rod, Dan, and the Sheriff to Ichiro Moyer and Mikey C to King Felix, Kyle Cruz, and Cano to the present with Julio, Gilbert, Kirby, and Cal. I don't believe it. It just continues. My, oh my. It's another sports podcast. Oh my, it's another sports podcast. It might be the first weekend without football in this beautiful country, but we still got baseball right around the corner, pitchers and catchers reporting. The NBA is on its all star break as well. So we're out here organizing garages, playing Legos with little kids, hitting up the driving range. We beat the ice, we beat the snow. And I'm saying we because in the pinch hitters box is my main man, Eric Neal. On my oh my, we can't, we won't, and we don't stop. What's going on, bro?
Hey guys, glad to pinch hit tonight. Heard from me midday. I'm assuming our beloved RG is stuck on a mountain somewhere. I can only imagine he's got a Sherpa leading him up some range in his truck. So hope you're doing good, RG. But I'm glad to talk a little sports tonight.
Let's do it, baby. Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't. We went deep into the Super Bowl last week. Y'all
Hmm.
know RG is a beloved Eagles fan, but every time a dynasty is toppled, and who knows, I'm not going to count Kansas City out from bouncing back again next year, even though the mountain's incredibly tough to climb. Couple of programs have made it look relatively easy with the Patriots and the Chiefs. But just tell me any thoughts you had from the NFL season.
It was better than I expected. It was a fun season, and I enjoyed the refs rhetoric, if you will. I got a lot of enjoyment with that leading up to the Super Bowl, how a lot of the narrative was we already know this. Here's the storyline, guys. Chiefs are going to win. Travis Kelsey's going to propose. I enjoyed that because as a fan, full on Dimission fan, we get to have those opinions because we've watched you for however many number of years. I understand the human factor, and I know I'm kind of diving into the refs as opposed to the actual season, but we have these opinions because let's just go back to our beloved Super Bowl 40. Matt Hasselbeck throws an interception and gets called for a low block penalty while he's trying to make a tackle. Now you have this whole Seattle Seahawks fan base looking at that going, oh, it is rigged. And we remember that from years on out. So when we have a season like the Chiefs just had, where they're winning by the skin of their teeth, it seems like almost every week, their offense was not as explosive. We have that rhetoric because we've seen it. You now have a fan base that's like, oh yeah, well, they're going to have the outcome. They're going to have a little influence in it. We've seen it. So it was a fun season. I was very glad to see Josh Allen get the MVP. That dude balled out as hard as he could. I almost feel like this version of the Bills is, the 90s version where they went to the Super Bowl 4 times, but couldn't quite make it over that hill. This is the next version of the Bills. We're all rooting for you, but you got to beat the dynasty. And because of what the Patriots did, you can't count out the Chiefs after 1 year. Tom Brady got beat a couple times and just came back. Guy's damn Lazarus. I think he's dead. He's like, nope, I'm just going to keep beating you. So it was a fun season, but you know, see what teams actually stay together and make a push.
Well, that's the toughest part. That's the toughest part is trying to keep your team together after any amount of success in that league. In the NFL, as soon as you are successful, the teams that are struggling are going to try to hire your coaches. They're going to try to sign your players. They'll even try to trade for them, dudes. So it's always evolving, it's always moving. I was so thrilled this year, bro. that the running back and the running game is coming back in style. Young ladies are wearing bell bottoms, including Kendrick Lamar, apparently. Styles come back in, and I've been saying this all year, but with all of these lighter linebackers and everyone playing these deep zone defenses, bro, I was so happy to see the running game come back. Our beloved Seahawks fired their offensive coordinator mainly because of an inability to run the ball, whether it's the coordinator's fault or the offensive line. We could easily argue about that, but the facts are the Seahawks brought in a new coach to try to bring more balance, and it's
You saw
Tyson
that.
Baxter's already cracking me up. But I know you got a little old school to you, and part of it's our
Mm.
age group. I feel like I'm young at heart. I feel like I'm a grown ass kid. But the bottom line is, man, we're all getting at that 4-0 and older. So when we scream at the mountains about Michael Jordan and those sort of things, you got to give us a little bit of break. But I'm so happy to see the running game come back like this.
I don't know if you saw Clint Kubiak says he actually wants to use a fullback. I don't even know where you'll find him anymore. That got me so excited. But I'm like, what? Do you convert a linebacker? Like, is there some lost city of Atlantis that still has fullbacks that we can actually get? I was so excited that he wants to use a fullback. Now, whether, opening press conference, does that translate into, preseason and the rest of the season? I hope so. Love a good fullback.
I love the fullback too because you could easily argue he's the most selfless person in all of
Mm,
sports.
100%. I know they've converted linebackers and usually they're special teams guys, but, we grew up with Strong and Allstott and, just studs that were, I mean, I guess, yeah, the size of linebackers and could take on blocks. And then all of a sudden, there was no quarterback sneaks. Just like, you need 1 yard, give it to the big guy and he'll take care of it. So I'm hopeful because watching Saquon just run ragged all over everybody this year, watching them commit to the line, that's one thing I'm just hoping that the Seahawks get back to is you can't have one without the other. You need a line so that your running back can do what they're good at. And our line has not been good still for we've had this conversation for years now, but it's only McDonald's second year, new offensive coordinator, which hopefully complements what he wants to do more. I'm hopeful.
Oh, I'm very hopeful. And part of the reason I'm so hopeful is it's so obvious. There's
Mm.
lots of teams where you have so many holes across the board where you're like, well, our cornerbacks need a ton of help. Our offensive line needs help. We also need a running back. We also need a third receiver. At least for the Seahawks right now, it is plain as day. John Schneider, I absolutely love. I think he gets unfairly criticized, but he deserves to be on the hot seat right now, but he also deserves a couple of years to try to fix this thing now because I feel across the board the team is really good in every positional group except for the offensive line. Tyson Baxter, we don't get Gary Kubiak in the deal. That is a bit disappointing because everyone talks about the Shanahan tree, but we cannot forget the importance of Gary Kubiak and his family in the way their system has spread across football. One thing I said, and here's the thing too, y'all, is me and Eric are both Huskies and Seahawks fans. So I had a huge fanboy in me wanting Ryan Grubb to succeed. I wanted him to succeed with the Seahawks so bad, just because of my own fandom for the Northwest teams uh, here in the greater Seattle area. And it was really tough to see because to me, there was no marriage between run and pass. We talk about the Shanahans and the Kubiaks. That's exactly what it is. That different plays are going to look the same to the defender until the quarterback either pulls the ball out or not based on the play action. And then also, we'll get into the Hall of Fame inductees for pro football and pro baseball in a minute here, Eric. But I go back, Mike Holmgren, that whole philosophy in the West Coast offense, and especially they adapted it more to power running when you have two Hall of Fame offensive linemen on the same squad. But the marriage between run and pass, man, the Seahawks, it was dead obvious. If we're under center, we're running. If we're in shotgun, we're passing. And also all the shotgun runs, you don't necessarily get downhill on someone's ass. So I'm just going to be thrilled to hopefully see a little bit of marriage between the two because everything you want as an offense in football is a hesitant defense. That's your one weapon. Otherwise, like some of my great friends like Nelly, shout out to one of my oldest friends. He's going to come down and knock the snot out of you.
I love that. And that's complementary football when you make the defense have that just moment of hesitation. That's all you need because it almost feels like Ryan Grubb, same thing. Oh, after watching the Huskies get to the title, it's like, God, I wanted him to succeed. But it almost feels like there are some players that go from college to pros and forget that all of a sudden the linebackers that you were out running, oh, they'll catch you quickly in the NFL. It is the best of the best. There is no next level. I almost think Ryan Grubb, I don't want to say forgot it, but it wasn't as like he knew it, but then when he saw it in person, it was like, oh hell, okay, this is a level that I didn't even quite understand. When you can have Odunze and all the boys just outrun, out pivot, they're just better athletes. But then you got guys like Wagner, and I just love Bobby, but in his prime, and these linebackers can hunt you down quickly. So it was sad that it didn't work out. I can't exactly say I'm going to root for Alabama, even though I love the boys. Sorry, guys. But if we can get back to that balance, because we've talked about it, if you and I, the Neanderthals on the couch, have a pretty good idea what they're doing, what's the guy across the sideline getting paid millions he's gonna know your next, instead of like 2 plays, probably the next 15, because you don't deviate, you don't have creativity. I'm hopeful for that.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Mm.
We'd be remiss. Mariners Lifers got a couple good comments on our team. And sorry, Tay, old Jerry Jones, he's never letting go
Oh, gosh.
to his beloved Dallas Cowboys. But Tyler Lockett, franchise stalwart. He is an absolute fan favorite. I tell my wife once a week just to brace her because
Yeah.
she's going to be really sad when he ends up being a cap casualty. It's nothing personal. It makes me bummed out too. It's the nature of the beast, though. One of the longest tenured players or the longest tenured player on the team easily. It happens across the league to every team. He gets too old for the contract he's at, and you end up having to part ways. It's just the nature of the beast. It sucks though, man. And he has been a calming force for guys like DK Metcalf, who I love, plays with some fire. You got to have a couple dudes on the field that are a little bit crazy. But you also got to have dudes like Tyler Lockett to rein him back in.
Do you think Tyler Lockett's in the Ring of Honor?
I absolutely do, yeah.
I think so
Ring
too.
of Honor, yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Hall of Fame, but Ring of Honors, Seahawks Hall of Fame. Yeah, I think so. And I wonder about the third wide receiver, just because with Kubiak saying what he's saying, that he loves a fullback, he loves 2-1 and 1-2 personnel, where he's tight ends, and that's a lot of 2 wide receiver sets that he was talking about in his press conference.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment, that's DK and JSN. Could you see them drafting another wide receiver? That's kind of where I'm thinking they're going to. I don't think they're going to spend money on a receiver. I think they'll try to draft, because at this point, if you're keeping DK and you're not going to trade him, if you're keeping those two, and Kubiak keeps talking about these 2 tight end sets, which that's another one. Is Noah Fant going to be a cap casualty? Does he fit into the system? I wonder. He could be. I don't know if he fits into what Kubiak wants to do. So.
Well, the Seattle Seahawks are in cap hell, so there's a lot of guys that are.
Yeah, they are.
That I wish we could and would keep. I like Mariners Lifers thinking, though, Byron Murphy at fullback. We saw him score a touchdown against our beloved Huskies in the Sugar Bowl. So we know that can work. But I do want a traditional dude, but you're so right. You're almost guaranteed going to have to get a college linebacker and convert him. So that's just the way you're going to have to go about this, man. I-form is almost a thing of the past. It is getting close to being a brontosaurus out here. But I like Tyson's point, though, man, because we saw the teams looking at the sideline like it's a college game, 2-minute drills, time running down in the half of the game, and it's nothing personal, but it just didn't seem to work out year one with Ryan Grubb, and it's a really tough jump too. And say what you will about Huskies football overall, that team just 2 years ago was actually stacked.
It was
It was
extremely.
look at all the pro prospects, man. There's no joke that they made it to the championship game. They had like 11 or 12 pros off of that one team, many high picks at that. And then the other factor I always consider, dude, is it's such a different beast when you are calling offensive plays and your team has the best offensive line versus a team that has one of the worst in your given league for competition. So it's just such a different beast to try to call plays.
It is. And when we won the Super Bowl, when we won it, we had the best line. Those years that Dallas was blowing people out, the last time they were good, which I think I was an infant, they had the best line. Nah, I'm older than that. I just, don't want to age myself too much. But traditionally, if you can win in the trenches, and I know, but the trenches aren't how we play fantasy football. The trenches aren't what ESPN covers. But unless you have that, you ain't getting far. Everyone likes the glitz and glam of the skill positions. Great. But unless you have the guys that give them time to exceed at what they have that ability to do, how many times did we see Russ and hell, even Gino, 3 steps back? Oh, so Sunday, who was that? Is that Tay Williams? I want to see the Cowboys win something in my life. You know what? That's fair. That's fair because how many sports franchises might have a couple rings, but we're in our 40s. How many of those sports franchises, hell, San Francisco, Dallas, the last time they had rings, long time ago. So I can't blame people for going like, oh, you have this great history. I saw none of it. So, but also I'm a Mariners fan, so screw you guys.
Yeah, well, it's tough being a Mariners fan. But that's a great point, though, because everything seems so recent in my brain. I feel like early 2000s rap is brand new. And then my wife was like, dude, that's 20 years old. Are you crazy? And so that's just how time works like that. We guys like us, we all 1995 was such a great season for the Mariners. 1996 was the last time the Cowboys won the Super Bowl. We got like two generations of people that have been born since some of these great events. So we kind of got to put that in perspective. Sunday evening media, absolutely. I think Geno Smith plays really good quarterback most of the time, but the mistakes he makes are so punitive. Turnovers in the red zone. I can count in my brain 3 turnovers in the end zone. Those mistakes are so punitive, they outweigh so much of the good you do during the game that if he cut that out, the Seahawks might have 11 or 12 wins this year. He doesn't. They're struggling. They're going to look for a new guy to replace him at some point. Speaking of going back into the 90s, dude, one thing I always like, and especially right now, because they're all guys we've seen their entire careers, is guys getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. Because when you're a kid, it's like your dad would tell you, "Oh, Willie Mays and Mickey Mantle, man, they were killing it." We never saw those dudes play.
No.
Even like when you're a kid, we know Troy Aikman, we know Dan Marino. I don't remember him as clear in my mind as Pro Football recently inducted Eric Allen, Jared Allen, Antonio Gates, and Sterling Sharp. What a great Hall of Fame class. There's a few other guys in there I was kind of surprised not to see make it first ballot. You got your Luke Kuechly's, your Eli Mannings, Marshawn Lynch, Earl Thomas. There's obviously a couple other guys I forgot. Big game Torrey Holt needs to get in, god damn it.
Thank
But
you.
is there any Sterling Sharp, Antonio Gates, Jared Allen, Eric Allen, all great players? Anything you could think of about any of them in particular?
Jared Allen, Eric Allen, they were fantastic. Antonio Gates to me was the no-brainer. He was like, yes, he was the best at his position for probably the longest amount of time. He was just a stud. The ex-basketball player, fantastic. Jared Allen, Eric Allen, but you already brought him up. How is Torrey Holt not in? We were there. We watched him. How is Reggie Wayne not in?
Mm.
Like, we have guys that were arguably the best in their position for close to 10 years. And the 2025 class was the smallest class since 2005, I think it was. And for the life of me, I can't figure out why either, because it's not like I can understand a couple years in baseball where you have the, new guys become eligible and you kind of look at it and go, yeah, no, they're the Hall of Very Good, but they're not the Hall of Fame. NFL, I mean, could you imagine Steve Largent coming up now for his Hall of Fame compared to what these guys are doing now? It's just completely different eras, and of course, the big show. When you take two different teams to the Super Bowl, when you are the head of a tree, I know you could argue Bill Walsh, and then that led to Holmgren, and that led to, but when you look at the Holmgren tree, I don't get it. Like, it almost feels like both football and baseball keep sending out the Hall of Fame ballots to people who haven't watched these sports in about 15, 20 years. Again, this is just a fan perspective. I'm sure they actually, well, no, I'm not sure. Who am I kidding? But the guys who got in, all for it. But when I see that it's the smallest class and I see the guys still waiting to get in, I'm going, yeah, no, I do better. Do better.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. It is unbelievable to me that Mike Holmgren is not in yet. It honestly pisses me off because
Mm.
I also look at, like, for a coach and a Hall of Fame coach at that. What was your situation? So the Green Bay Packers were basically crappy ever since the Vince Lombardi left. So they had about 2.5 decades of ineptitude. Then Mike Holmgren shows up and turns that team into a perennial winner, back to back Super Bowls, including one victory. Then Mike Holmgren comes to Seattle, whose peak is mediocrity, whose floor is pathetic, and he turns them into a perennial winner with a Super Bowl appearance against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And a huge, huge, huge fact, Eric, is there are only 7 NFL head coaches who have led their team to a Super Bowl with 2 different franchises. None have ever won it. Mike Holmgren is one of those 7, and he uplifted 2 franchises, one that had been dormant for 2.5 decades, and the other, the Seattle Seahawks, who never did a nada for their entire franchise's history. Put some respect on Coach Holmgren's name. And then the other guy that really just pops to me is Antonio frickin' Gates. Y'all remember how devastating of a defense the Seahawks had in the LOB era at the peak of that regime. Pete Carroll leading the way. That defense was what? The number one scoring defense 3 or 4 years in a row. And I still vividly remember on a hot September day in Seattle, we brought the TV out to the backyard, and Antonio Gates cut up the LOB for 3 frickin' touchdowns. They won us, beat us in an upset. That's who Antonio Gates is. He was so great. He dropped 3 tutties on our beloved LOB Seahawks. That is what Hall of Famers do.
That game, they had the best game plan. They didn't throw it maybe further than 15 yards the entire game. Philip Rivers just lived in the middle of the field the entire game and just slow. They knew they had the game plan, executed it, and let's be fair, up in Seattle, we're not exactly used to San Diego heat. Now I know these guys come from all over the country, but it's different. It's like playing in Minnesota during the Frozen game. It's just different. They just slowly marched our ass up and down that field the entire game. I don't think they had an explosive play the entire game. They didn't need to. Just and yeah, I remember Antonio after the third touchdown. I'm like, okay, I really hope no one else in the NFL is watching this because I felt like the Chargers full on like if you want to beat them, here is how. You got to kind of be methodical about it. It's like, oh, holy hell! So that was a good one.
Dude, I see a lot of banter I'm loving here on the live chat talking about Earl Thomas, who that is a great debate for Hall of Fame because I don't even know if I can make up my mind myself where he's at with that. But I think he might be another testament to Pete Carroll and his coaching, though, man. Is Pete could get some wild cards to play well and at least toe the line well enough, long enough to, go to back Super Bowls and win one. Earl definitely likes the life in the fast lane. That's clear as day. He might have been the secret sauce to the back end of that defense. So he's okay. And I love that Tyson Baxter's on here because here's what I'm gonna say. Ed Reed is in a category of his own for patrolling center field, but Earl Thomas is in that category just below Ed.
Is Earl Thomas going to suffer from what Felix is going to suffer from? And the longevity wasn't there. It wasn't a long enough time span.
I think
Ed,
it'll hurt him a ton. It's already killed Cam Chancellor's chances. And I
yeah.
honestly thought that maybe Cam should, even with that shorter career, because football is so different for me. Stats
Mm,
don't matter for me in football the way they do in baseball and basketball. Football's how you
agreed.
play the game. And there was no one feared like Cam Chancellor at the peak of his powers, but we're not looking at it that way. And a strong safety isn't necessarily going to put up sexy stats. But we all know nobody wanted a piece of Big Bam Cam.
Cam is my favorite Seahawk of all time. It's not close. He is the man. I would put him in the hall before Earl, but a strong safety, getting a strong safeties into the hall is damn near impossible. But just the hit, it was like the last era. And when he came into the league, he hit so ferociously, but he was a little bit his targeting wasn't great. Pete and the crew, we all can picture him just taking out Vernon Davis, but he hit him square in the chest, legal hit. Yeah, it was brutal, but he hit him very legally. He learned over his couple of years, changed his target, learned how to still hit just as hard, but within a target area. God, it was beautiful to watch. No one wanted to come across the middle. As soon as Demaryius Thomas got knocked on his ass in the beginning of the Super Bowl, it's like, yeah, you guys are in for a long night. It's not going to be fun for you. And it was not.
Oh, you're bringing me back, man. Super Bowl 48 early in the game on that little short crosser. That was a play of the game. Absolutely the play of the game. Who wants a piece of that, dude? I can't believe what Tyson Baxter just said. He thinks Earl Thomas is better than Ed Reed. He is the
No, no.
all fan to ever say that. And I'm all it's hard for me to really say. I guess I'd have to look at it more closely. But talk about splitting hairs, I guess. But man, even to say something like that's crazy to me. But I'm a roll with Ed. But here's one thing though, too, Eric,
Ooh.
is your favorite teams you're always the most critical of because you see them up so closely. So you see
Sure.
the warts that maybe others don't. He probably saw some warts in Ed Reed that we didn't see that we maybe saw in Earl that you wouldn't if you weren't just diving in every single game.
Very good point. Very good point. I like Tyson Baxter. Ed Reed was insane, but I'd put three guys ahead of him. E.T., okay. Ronnie Lott and Brian Dawkins. That's interesting. I like it. Ronnie Lott's, again, one of those that, it's just highlights on ESPN. Didn't get to see him a lot, not a lot of memory of it. Hey, but you just hear the stories and you kind of rely on that. Yeah, Earl just had range for days. And when you hit Gronk in the chest and break his ribs
Mm-hmm.
as that little guy, that's something special.
Okay, here's a play that reminded me of Earl Thomas too, and it would have been either his rookie or second year is the when Eli and the Giants won their second Super Bowl versus the Patriots. And there's that famous pass late in the game down the sideline to Mario Manningham. Incredible pass, incredible toe tap catch right in between the safety and the cornerback. That
Mm.
exact route and exact play was run against the Seahawks earlier in the season. And Earl had that unbelievable extra gear to get to that ball, make the interception, toe tap himself for a huge upset win for the Seahawks
Yeah,
that year.
at that
So
time, yeah.
you're just that range and fearlessness was something else. I honestly kind of hope he does make it just because I felt he was so special to that team. But man, man, man. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
it
Crazy, crazy,
was.
crazy to think about.
It's almost one of those where you don't realize what you're watching or what you're getting to witness until it's gone. Like when Griffey in his prime, when we got to watch Michael Jordan, when we got to watch, and like you said, we didn't watch Willie Mays, but, the LOB and that era was incredibly special. It's not something that comes around often. So I'm curious in general how many Hawks from that period will make the Hall, like Bobby, like Sherm, Earl, Cam. I'm curious. I don't, aside from Russ, I
I think there will be three or four. There'll be
think
three
so.
or four. It'll be Bobby for sure,
Yeah, gotta
me,
be.
Marshawn, and Earl.
I think Marshawn will get in. It just might take a couple years.
Yeah, it won't be
Yeah.
right away. And it's not like he has unbelievable stats, but his yardage is about on par with guys like Earl Campbell and whatnot. So I say if you, and that's like one of the most perfect comparisons. Earl
Yeah.
Campbell, Marshawn Lynch, kind of similar about that. Mariners Life for my main man RG has been working that grave shift trying to buy him a spaceship and fly. So my main
Uh,
man's out tonight. But of course, we have the best pinch hitter ever. Comes in with 3-run bombs in the bottom of the ninth. That's what Eric Neal does. But Hall of Fame time, it's always cool to me just to
mm.
see who is actually that dude. You were just talking about Felix Hernandez. Let's get into the Baseball Hall of Fame a little bit too. Because as funny as it is, they both announced their new inductees at very similar times, usually about a week apart for whatever reason. Ichiro.
Oh,
Ichiro. Ichiro is in the Hall of Fame, first Japanese born player to do it, and he left a mark on baseball.
I love the stat. I wish I could pull it up, but it was how many hits Pete Rose, Ty Cobb, Mantle, and just Alex Rodriguez, Derek Jeter, like all the greats had by the age of 26. It was like, this guy had 1,400, this guy had 1,000 by the age of 26. And these guys are all 3,000 hit guys and in the Hall. Ichiro at that point had 0 and passed them all. That might be why I'm still such a big proponent of just get the ball and play, make them make the mistake. Because Ichiro was, I mean, he made a career off of that. And whatever numbskull moron doesn't watch baseball anymore that didn't vote, show yourself, show your work, give us an argument, stop hiding. Yes, I'm one of those guys.
Well, I guarantee you that dude can't throw and catch.
Wonder if this guy's a walking skeleton at this point. Now I'm so happy we got it. When we get a Hall of Famer, it, it's not we go big. Niehaus, one of the best to do it. Griffey, Ichiro, Edgar, best DH of all time. Love Ortiz, but nah, I'll take my bet. When we get it's a good one. We don't have a lot to celebrate as Mariners, but when we get a Hall of Famer, man, goddamn, they're good. And again, I still remember my first Ichiro game. First pitch of the game, hits a little slap single. Second pitch steals second. Third pitch steals third. I'm a senior in high school going, I hadn't even really fallen in love with baseball to the degree I do now. And I was like, who is this guy? We were spoiled for so long, and you appreciate it now. It's just, man, he was so good.
Oh man, I love Tyson Baxter getting after it in his defensive Ichiro, but there's so many ways to look at it too. Okay, let's just start from the accolade standpoint, Eric. In 19 major league seasons, he debuted at 27. That's 19 major league seasons, and he debuted at 27. He was an MVP, a Rookie of the Year, a 10-time All Star, 10-time Gold Glover, 3-time Silver Slugger, 2-time batting champion, All Star MVP. Oh my lord, he came in and took the world by storm. He had speed, he had the cannon, he was deadly accurate as well. He was extremely fast, very quick, and what I always call Eric is the extraterrestrial back control. He had back control that we have only seen from one other human, and that's Vladimir Guerrero.
Ichiro just threw something out of Star Wars, and goddamn, that's still
Yeah.
the rookie year. Tyson Baxter, I'm loving this one. Any real baseball fan knows he is a generational talent. Whoever voted no is an imbecile that is still seeing Japanese people in the light of 1942. That is fucking awesome. That is fantastic. And just the fact that Mariano Rivera is the only like you're in or you're not. Like, and the Yankees reliever is the one that gets unanimous. I know it just gives, sports people like us something to talk about, but come on, guys. It's another one of those do better. Like you can't you leave someone leaves Griffey off, someone leaves Mantle off, someone leaves Jeter off, someone leaves Hank Aaron off. Shut the you should, I'm sorry, but there's some of these where you leave them off like, okay, you're not watching, so go away.
It is crazy. Sometimes I think a lot of it is some of these writers just gotta make a name for themselves, and they do it by dissing
Agreed.
somebody else. But it's so ridiculous. Some guys are so obvious, and I don't want to even get too into it. But the Mariano Rivera thing, absolute first ballot Hall of Famer. But
Oh
at that
yeah.
closer is the only unanimous. So that's where I'm kind of just like, if they get in, they get in because I don't know what these dudes are thinking. But I want to talk a little bit of stats here with Ichiro.
Mm.
3,089 hits, a 311 career average, 60 WAR on his career, and of course, 262 hits in 2004, breaking an 84-year-old record held by George Sisler. We obviously never knew who that man was until Ichiro was attacking that hollowed hits record. I repeat, that's 262 hits in a Major League Baseball season. Played 161 games, so that's about 1.63 hits per game. Oh my lord, Ichiro. And if y'all don't know, Eric was kind of referencing Dave Niehaus. My oh my, it's another. But he was the longtime Mariners commentator who was actually the first Hall of Famer our favorite baseball team had ever had until Ken Griffey Jr. got inducted. Our commentator was our only Hall of Famer. So that kind of gives you an idea of where our fan base has been at times. But incredible. Absolutely incredible. And then one more stat I want to drop you with. He also had 1,278 hits in Japan. So if you add up his hits from his ball in Japan and here in the States, that's 4,367 hits. That would be 11 more, 111 more than the legendary Pete Rose.
And that's another one that, since Pete has passed, it's like when I feel like a lot of things are done today that are far dirtier than what Rose did. Now it's easier for me to say different time, different era, but I think that man deserves some Hall of Fame flowers personally. It's always that unanswerable question. If Ichiro debuted over here at 20, 21, how big would that tally be?
Mhm.
I think he'd hit 4,000 personally, but you never know. But oh, it's fun to think about.
He sure had the talent to. because I can't come back to it enough. And Ichiro is one of my favorite players ever. I'm a Japanese American from Seattle, also. So the connection is as plain and obvious as it gets. But he actually had really poor plate discipline.
Mm.
Think back. How many times did he take a ball that was like an inch off the top of the plate and put a single into center field? But that's how special his bat control is. In terms of bad ball hitters, there's Ichiro and Vladimir Guerrero, and then we can try to figure out the rest from there.
Fair enough. I mean, at times it did look like he was playing MLB The Show on easy, where it can be a foot off the plate and he can still hit it. It's like he shouldn't be able to reach that. His arms don't go that far. Oh, well, okay. He just slapped it past the third baseman somehow. Cool.
I love it. I love it. Well, this was also our era, and he played for a few different teams. And
Hmm.
guys are asking, why did it take Billy Wagner so long to get in? I'm not exactly sure because there's been very few inductees in the last 10 to 15 years, mainly because a lot of the superstars have their PED connections, which has left a lot of small Hall of Fame classes. But Billy Wagner was one of the very first pitchers that was consistently hitting triple digits out of the bullpen. That's 422 freaking saves, bro. Eighth most ever, second most for a lefty. And at least in my brain, he wasn't like your George Kirby super tall and long type of pitcher. He was kind of like short and buff and just threw the shit out of the ball, and I freaking love it.
I'd have to look this up because I don't know this off the top of my head, but how many closers are in the Hall? Because
Mm,
the closer didn't really become a thing until what, like mid 80s,
yeah,
roughly,
sounds
like
right.
like Eckersley and the like that. Um, I almost wonder if he suffered from why it took him a while because he was in at the same time as Hoffman and Rivera, two
Mm,
guys who were always like he was always that next heel. It was like Chris Warren was in NFL rushing at the same time as Emmitt Smith and Barry Sanders, so he was never going to win the rushing title. I wonder if being in he was a dominant closer, but I wonder since he was in the league at the same time as those two, if that um if that's why it took him a little extra time because that lefty nasty out of the bullpen, I didn't want to see him. It's like, oh shoot, this is not going to be, we all have those closers that come in the game, be like, okay, we got a chance to touch him up a little bit. This is not over. I mean, hell, we watched Bobby Ayala for in the mind. Good God.
I was just gonna
Or
say that's the story of the mid to late '90s Mariners. Best lineup in baseball, and I promise you, we'll give it up in the ninth.
yeah, yeah. So I wonder if that is why it took longer because anyone who watched him is like, oh well, God, yeah. Because I don't know, is because Eric Gagne was one of the best at that time too.
Hmm.
Like I wonder,
His
but
career is
again,
too
I
short. Well, I'm gonna put the knowledge on you because you're exactly right.
thank
That's
you.
exactly what it is here. And it's he was pitched in the same era as Mariano Rivera and
Mm,
Trevor Hoffman. And then to
yeah.
top it off, remember more in our childhood? You remember Big Lee Smith?
Oh yeah, yeah,
For the Cardinals.
yeah.
He got inducted in 2019. Hoffman
Oh,
got inducted in 2018 and Rivera in 2019. So we had three closers in a 2 year span just 5, 6 years ago. So that is clearly what affected Billy Wagner taking so long to get in. I'm just glad they got him in. I'm glad that these guys
absolutely.
are still alive. Pete Rose should have been inducted at some point. He's
Yeah.
served enough of a punishment, but that's clearly what it was. And Rivera's just the top dog on the top team. There is super producer Andy on the
Thank
phone.
you, Indy.
I definitely
Dennis
remember
Eckersley.
Dennis
Yep.
Eckersley
Goose
too
Gossage. Yep.
because of his almost underhand delivery, and he was also a years. But if you ever watch Dennis Eckersley, you want to talk about one of the original submariners.
He's the one I remember from the A's and that goofy delivery. And as a kid, you're like, you see pitchers, you don't know the differences. And then you see him scraping the mound, you're like, what is happening? I mean, it's what it looked like at least as a kid. Because he's kind of the one I remember is almost I don't know if he's the one that started the trend, but it felt like the mid '80s with him was kind of the genesis of the closer, and this is now a role on the team. There's a specific person to do this on the team. Rolly was the man.
Raleigh Fingers. For the longest time, he was the all-time leader in saves until
Yeah.
position became more prevalent.
Well, it's like Steve Largent led the league in all the receiving yards, passing, everything, and then all of a sudden the league is what it is now, and they'd look at his stats and go, "What was he, a second, third string guy? Like what?" It changes over time.
This is why you got to use your eye test also,
Mm-hmm.
because there's many stats that are they change so much. Like you said, receiving and passing stats will never be the same. You know, Dan Marino's been passed by like 8 or 9 quarterbacks already. So that just kind of shows you where it goes on that one. But there's another big lefty that made the Hall of Fame, and that's CC Sabathia. I, in my brain, remember him more for great postseason dominance, even more than regular season consistency. And if you put up enough good years amongst those dominant postseason performances, that's how you land in the Hall of Fame. What do you remember anything about CC? Because I got a little bit on my chest I want to get off in a minute.
I'm a little surprised he got in on as soon as he did. Not gonna lie, I think he was Hall of very good, and it might take him a couple years. The one, even with the Indians and with the Yankees, he was very good. The one thing I remember about him is why I respect him. When he got traded, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, from the Indians till Milwaukee,
Mm-hmm.
he had that half season, and he was going on 3 days rest for like 3 months straight, 2 months straight, something like that, just to get him in. And the dude wasn't getting touched. 3 days rest. No, I'll go out again. No, I'll go out again. Mowing everyone down. I was like, he has no reason to do this. He's a free agent at the end of this year. Well, obviously, when the Yankees got him, if I remember that right.
Yep.
That small sample size of, look, wherever he signs and end up being Yankees, it was like, I don't necessarily, I definitely respect this guy because he does not have to do what he's doing for the freaking Milwaukee Brewers because they're just as inept as us. But he was at least doing everything in his power for the rental team that came and got him. I still almost surprised he got in the Hall, but at least that small moment is actually my biggest memory of CC. Not with the Indians or Yankees. It was that small. I'm a rental player, but good God, I'm going to do everything I can to help these guys. That was kind of impressive to me.
Kind of impressive. It's freaking awesome, dude. No, because as a pitcher, he was pitching so much that
Yeah.
that is really. If I was his agent, I would tell him, "What the hell are you doing, bro?" But this is why we like these guys. This is a guy that's showing love for his team. His competitive spirit is burning with the hottest flame. I want to take you into his Yankees career. And another thing that was kind of emblematic of CC to me was it's at the end of the season. They're playing a meaningless game against the Tampa Bay Rays, and he needs a few more innings to hit a incentive bonus for like 500K. A lot
Ooh,
of freaking
okay.
money. And Tampa Bay throws at one of their guys, and he comes back and throws at one of their guys to protect his dude, gets ejected, and everyone on the team knew that he just forfeited 500K for not getting the innings pitched he needed for his bonus, but he felt it was more important to protect his teammate than all of that sweet cheddar. Oh my goodness, CC Sabathia, you're right. Absolute workhorse ace. Was he the best? No, but there you tell me workhorse, I think of CC.
That's the thing. I think it is stuff like that that does help your case for the Hall. Like the Brewers and protecting your team. And I do think stuff like that. Well, obviously the postseason. Like it does help. You can't you can't discount stuff like that. You can't discount the intangibles. Like he didn't have to do what he did as far as a workhorse for the Brewers. He didn't have to throw at that guy. I mean, we know these guys make ungodly money. Jeff Bezos will stop and pick up $150 on the sidewalk. He's got more money than God, and he'll still stop and do that. These guys with these incentives, I mean, hell, we saw a couple years ago before Brady retired, Gronk had made money, but he had $1 million incentive if he caught one more ball, like catches for the year, and they made sure to catch the one more. They're not going to just throw it away. So the fact that CC did protect his team, protect his family, hell yeah. Was he the best? I don't think so. I don't think there was ever a time where I was like, yeah, he's the best pitcher in baseball. But dude, the guy was a workhorse.
And he was the ace on the last time the Yankees won the World Series.
I'm just glad that was over. What, 15 years ago now?
For
I'm
real.
so glad. Well, 2009.
Sounds about right. I
Yeah,
can't remember.
I can stay there. I can stay
Time.
there. That's fine.
Okay, so here's my food for thought. I want you to reply to this, dude.
Hmm.
So CC Sabathia had 142 more appearances than King Felix. 142. That's a shitload more appearances. But I want to put this in perspective for whatever it's worth, because I think Felix is a Hall of Fame talent who might not have a Hall of Fame career based
Hmm.
on how long he did it. But Felix had a better ERA, a better K percentage, a better walk percentage, the same amount of All Star appearances. He was 1-0 on Cy Youngs compared to CC, and 2-0 on ERA titles. For whatever it's worth, if we don't care if we don't care much about longevity, we got to put Felix in. But there, at some point, we need to consider longevity. That's why Felix will be an on the fence type of guy until he either makes it or he doesn't. But just food for thought on Felix. Was that kind of dude though for a shorter amount of time.
He was better, but I think the thing that's going to work against him is he pitched in Seattle, which is notorious. It's a pitcher's park.
Mm.
I think that's going to work against him. Where CC's in, Yankee Stadium, which, that right field feels like a joke. I know he's a lefty. I think the fact that he pitched in Seattle is going to work against him. Because especially when you pull up our current pitching staff, which is studs, but then you see their home road splits
Mm-hmm.
and how different it is, you can look back at Felix and go, well, yeah, he was great at home. I can see writers going, I don't give a toss what he did at home. What was his ERA on the road? What was his whip on the road? What was his K walk rate on the road? I can see writers doing that and going, when you take away Seattle, he was very good, but not Hall. I can
Mm-hmm.
absolutely see that happening. So I think his short career, it almost felt like him and Verlander were on the same path.
Yep.
And then Verlander, oh,
He just
I'm going to talk bad about Felix. Verlander had work ethic.
okay.
Felix, he was always a thrower. I love him, but I don't know if he had that same work ethic. It's almost like Shaq. If Shaq had work ethic, he'd probably have 12 rings.
Mm-hmm.
But he was just that good, that quick
Some guys
for
get more
so
get.
long. Yeah.
Look over my shoulder right here. That's
What's up,
Jimmy
Jimmy?
Hendrix.
What's up, Jimmy?
The greatest guitarist ever, in my opinion. Of course, there's a
Agreed.
major Seattle homer in me saying that, but he had a freakish talent that his fingers were freakishly large. He can do
Yeah.
things on a guitar that other humans simply can't. Felix Hernandez could do things with the baseball coming out of his hand that other humans simply can't, and some guys can survive on all their God-given talents. Some guys need to work harder than others. That's kind of just how life goes, but
Hmm.
we're coming into spring training, bro. Spring
Oh,
is upon
pitchers
us.
and catchers.
We
What
got
a great day.
Astros fans here. We got some Texas Rangers fans here. It's my oh my, it's another sports podcast. So you know we loving the Mariners here as well. But I saw Fangraphs recently, and their projections have a three-way tie between Seattle, Houston, and Texas. Yup, my friends on the live chat, and of course you, Eric. It might be the wild, wild west, and the way the landscape of baseball looks, it might be one of the only divisions that'll be super fun to follow all the way to the end.
It is. We got one of the best divisions to watch this year. Personal opinion, of course. And of course, I'm going to say that because it's the Mariners. And I have no doubt that the Rangers and the Astros aren't going to go away. Again, they're just going to keep coming. The day pitchers and catchers report, I know it's just getting their physicals and just starting, but man, it's almost like spring. That's the beginning of spring. You know it's coming. You know the weather's going to change because we just dealt with this bullshit snow for the last couple of weeks up here. And we're not built for that. Am I excited? I mean, I'm excited because it's baseball. Am I excited what the Mariners did? No. Uh, no. Jerry, you did a shit job selling your vision. You didn't do a good job selling it. They are relying on Dan and Edgar. Good people to rely on. But my God, are they leaning on those guys hard?
Mm-hmm.
I hope that the 23-11 end to the season is not, fool's gold. Could we be better? Hell yeah. But with this pitching staff, hopefully Julio has a better season. Cal Raleigh's going to be Cal. But we've had this conversation, it feels like, for years. We're relying on guys to have bounce back seasons. Haniger, I love him, but I'm not even counting on him. Garver, please hit something. And did you see, I cannot remember who had this, but they had the projected WAR and this just position players. Projected WAR of our position players. It was Julio, Cal, Crawford, and if I remember correctly, it was either 4 or 5. It's someone who's never even played an inning of baseball.
Uh-oh.
It was Williamson.
Oh, no
the
kidding.
the third baseman. Even though he's not exactly great with the bat, his defense is that good. I wish I could remember the site I was reading. This was a couple weeks ago. That they think he's going to get called up and just provide a defensive boost. But when I see that they're relying on guys that are predictions of WAR are guys who have not even played an inning yet, we have the best, according to many we have the best farm system in baseball, which keeps GMs employed and drives guys like us a little bit crazy because when you have that, it's like, okay, are they good enough? Are they 4A players, which it feels like we've had forever? Or can you actually go out and get us help because no one's signing here? Did Jerry and John and the crew and Justin do enough? Hell no. Did they try to do more? I think they did. But I think a lot of guys saw what Teo went through, what Gino went through, and just kind of went, I'm not signing for you.
Mm.
And think about a guy like Bregman, Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso did not sign for big money.
No.
You
Kind of
tell
went
me we
back,
could? Are you kidding me?
frankly.
So
No, it's obviously frustrating. It's obvious.
I went on a rant. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all, I knew you were. I kind of just out there, Yeah, I know that you're gonna bite on that one. It's tough. It's tough to be a Mariners fan sometimes. I am pretty optimistic though, just because of the way the season finished. And Houston took some major hits. The reason I'm still extremely worried about Houston is because they have the pedigree and they know how to do it.
I would trade for Alvarez in a heartbeat just to get him off of that damn team.
Oh, for real.
Good
For real.
God.
But I mean, they already survived losing Springer and Correa. What franchise survives losing a Springer and a Correa? Now they lose Bregman and Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker, maybe the most underrated player in all of baseball.
How?
Best corner outfielders in the game. Isaac Paredes, absolute stud at third. He ain't no Kyle Tucker. So hope. Okay, I'm gonna put it like this because Texas will bounce back. I promise. Texas was injured, a little bit of a World Series hangover there in the AL West. This is Texas will be back. Houston's always there. But from the Seattle Mariners perspective, this has got to be that year to win the division. It's got to be that year. Houston's
It's
gotten weaker. What they have on us is they know how to do it, and we're still pretending like we know how to do it. But if there was ever the year, it's got to be now for the Mariners to strike. And clearly, we went after no big fish in the offseason. Oh my gosh. Donovan Solano, he's closer to
uh,
Social Security than he is MLB paychecks, for Pete's sakes. But this is how we do it here in Seattle. We have a ton of great prospects who are still 2 years away at best, and our
yeah.
pitching staff is ready now. Let's just hope. Let's just hope. I mean, there's one thing I really want to consider is Victor Robles that dude? Is Victor
Ooh,
Robles that dude? At one point in his career, he was a higher rated prospect than Juan Soto. They've gone their two separate paths since that time in Washington, but the talent's always been there. And it wouldn't be the first nor the last time we've seen a talented player get a change of scenery to turn around their career. And we have to hope and pray that he's one of those dudes, or it's going to be another oh so close, but not quite there.
yeah, he's got to be that guy. I mean, we need our outfield to be what they are advertised to be. We need those three to be just studs. We have a Rosarina for a full year now. You know, he's been here, he's gotten to know the city, the players, the coaches, the staff, you know, hitting in, I almost said Safeco, hitting in T-Mobile. Um, it, we need Robles to be that guy because it's getting to the point where this is a little bit of a tangent. I wonder if MLB is going to take a little bit of a hit in viewership because on paper, we're looking at it going, it's going to be Dodgers and Yankees again. You got random. I love the expanded playoff. I think that's fantastic because it keeps more teams, more cities involved for longer. Really think we should win the division. But when the chips are down and you have the two big baddies coming in, can you compete with them? Those are the ones you want to beat. Like when we hear Jerry and his, oh, this year, this year, and this year. Well, dude, we're in those years. We're in 25 now. We want World Series. I'm sorry, but you kind of lost a little equity. Winning division's great, but at this point, it's not enough. And and I understand that only the Yankees and Dodgers can spend like the Yankees and Dodgers, which I still hope. I don't know if they will. I still hope they put in a hard salary cap like NFL. Fuck, even I follow F1. They put in a freaking cost cap
Mm.
because teams like Ferrari and Mercedes could just outspend the lower teams. So it was like, oh, it's always going to be these two teams fighting for it. They put in a cap of 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 2021, I believe. Even racing is putting in a cap to try to create some parity. And this bullshit luxury tax that they have, it's not good enough. So I think that's just becoming old and bitter. You know, I want to
Well,
see my team do some things.
the spending has gotten insane
Yeah.
in a sport that's never been equal. Has
No.
maybe the separation between the haves and the have-nots are maybe greater than ever. We got a team with a $60 million payroll. We got a team with a $300 million payroll. The
Mm,
Mariners are stuck in the middle, 150 or wherever, and
yeah.
it pisses us off. But could you imagine being a fan of some of these other teams who are really low spenders? The Goliaths, you're right. You're gonna have to deal with that. We got to get there first, though. I would love to deal with that. We got to get there first, and I still stand on anything can happen in a short series, man. Anything. And if it's a tight series, it can just be one pitch. It can be one error, one double, and it changes the entire series. Are the
Oh, the
Dodgers
Mariners.
juggernaut on paper? Of course they are. But this is where I get a little feisty, though. Fuck them, man. They want to spend all that money. Then this is where is my dad and my grandpa at? Rest in peace. A little piss and vinegar out there, baby.
The Mariners are built for the playoffs, but we got to get there.
Yeah.
We got the pitching. Well, we got to get there though, because pitching just every pitch is so pivotal in the postseason. One of the, I think the only thing better than postseason baseball is postseason hockey game 7. Like
Mm.
that's a chaos that can't be replicated. But postseason baseball, every pitch is just that big. And I do think some of these managers and some of these people are overthinking it when they're pulling their starter in inning 3, inning 4. It's like he's been your horse all year long. Don't let him work. You know, I understand that bit Grady Little in the ass, but that was, I mean, what, 7th inning? He'd been through the couple times, so we're built for the postseason, but we got to freaking get there. I'm just hoping with Dan and Edgar, I don't see as many strikeouts because we talked after 23, second in the league in strikeouts. We talked last year. Oh, guess what? We got rid of Teo and Suarez to do better, and yet we led the league. So I'm hoping some of Edgar's teaching of, I mean, shit, we remember watching Brett Boone with
Oh
2
yeah.
strikes. His stance changed. He choked up on the bat. Like when it's 2 strikes, okay, you know, you're 2-0, 1-0, like you want to let it fly, give it a shot, sure. It's 2 strikes. Put the ball in play. Do not try to be a hero. There is no 7-run home run. Keep the line moving. And actually keep the line moving, not just say it. We've said it for years and the shit hasn't happened because they're swinging it, crap in the dirt and over their heads. Like, for God's sake.
Approach.
Yeah?
What I'm so pumped about is I at least my hope is that with Dan Wilson running the ship, Edgar Martinez, Kevin Seitzer really doing work with our hitters, that maybe this team won't be so reliant on the analytics. I've never been anti-analytic, but I am anti letting the analytics make every decision for you. Sometimes you need to really think about the human. Is my pitcher hot? Is my guy cold? Because every situation is different, and that's what the analytics don't bring into play. Is and maybe stuff could be. We don't know that this guy's had a sore arm for 2 weeks. Maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
time to pull him out, or maybe that dude, you know, my God, my pitcher's girlfriend's in the stands for the first time tonight. This dude's got some extra fucking juice. Let's go.
That's a real
So
thing.
things like that make us human that the analytics could never figure out. And hopefully we get a little bit of Lou Piniella and good old fundamental baseball. We don't need to bunt every inning, but damn it, there are times where you just need one and you need to get the guy over.
And I fully admit I'm not a big analytics guy. I'm much more of an eye test because, and you bring it up perfectly, the guy's girlfriend is in the stands. Oh, God, now he's throwing 100 instead of 97. After, oh, gosh, I can't remember his first name, Fernandez, the Miami pitcher who passed away.
Mm.
And like the next day, D. Gordon hits a bomb. D. Gordon doesn't hit bombs.
Mm-hmm.
That's not on your analytics. That stuff, and I know that's kind of an extreme example, but there is stuff that analytics just don't show, and that's why I'm a little bit more of an eye test guy. But I do think you, in this day and age, you need both. I love the money balls. Like, well, this guy's got no good girlfriend. It means he's got no self confidence. Are you sure? Or are you just an ancient dinosaur that's trying to read into something that I don't know. I do think you need a little bit of both, but I think the Mariners have been relying a little bit too much on analytics and trying to spin it as a sales pitch to us fans because we're still paying the tickets. And the tickets aren't even the extortion part. It's the parking and the hot dogs and the beers. When you get a beer and a bottle of water, it's $28. Fuck off. Give me a break.
Oh, and then some stadiums, like in Atlanta, they have
Yes.
that you would find at AM PM. So it really is just about how you want to conduct your business.
Hmm. I love Art Monk. Art. What's his name? Art, the Falcons owner. I forget now.
Arthur Blank, the Home
Thank
Depot.
you. For God's sake. Think about blanking on that one. No, I love him for setting the prices that are just I would love to go to more Mariners games with my daughter. She's 7. She's prime to
Mm-hmm.
start enjoying stuff like this. Sorry, we'll go to the Aqua Sox because we can actually afford that as a family, and it's not gonna, oh, we got to plan ahead for parking, for concessions. Because when we go down, we want to have fun. Yeah, go to concession stands. Go to the team store and pick something up. You want a little jersey? Cool. You want a T-shirt? Cool. And after tickets, parking, all of a sudden that's a $300 or $400 trip, and you're like, hmm, you know, I'd love to go down more often, but shit, we talked about it last year. Voted with my dollars.
I can
I listened
appreciate
to him on the
that.
radio. Didn't go to a game, and it wasn't because I didn't want to. But is it worth it? I don't know. I don't know right now.
Well, here's the bottom line that we do know, and we don't tell people how to fan on my oh my, but what I will say is the Mariners don't love you the way you love them. I promise that.
So true. Oh, it's so true. It's
For
like
real,
fever
bro.
pitch.
For real.
The Red Sox never let you down. They're always there. They're always there to break your heart.
Oh, you know it. Well, they got a couple now. We're still wandering through the
Mm,
abyss. I just want to say one more thing about King Felix because I love hearing other teams' Perspectives. Texas Power Rangers saying that he thinks King Felix is a lockdown Hall of Famer. The voters gave him about 20% or so on the first ballot, and if a guy starts at 20%, that's kind of a coin flip if we'll ever get there or not. Edgar was even like I think 16, 17%, and he eventually got in at the very end. So there is a chance for Felix. Clearly, they think he's kind of on the fence. What I do want to say that is just the most emblematic event of Felix's career. It just states everything about his time with the Mariners. King Felix pitched a perfect game, and the Mariners won 1-0. That is his career.
Ah, I think that was the only way we won that game. It's
Oh,
because of that. Jesus Christ. Ty, I got a question for you though.
what's up, man?
Who's opening day starter?
It's got to be Logan Gilbert.
Thank you. I'm sorry,
Well,
Castillo.
shout out
It's
to the
LG.
greatest co-host a guy could ask for. RG has been telling us that Logan Gilbert, LG the OG,
Hmm?
been saying it for years before it happened that he was the ace of this ball club. And I think would send a great message to the team about homegrown players. This is not a slide on Luis Castillo, and I seriously think he's probably a chill enough dude that he's not going to take it the wrong way.
Agreed. Yeah.
And his bank account says otherwise. I'm like, bro, look at the checks that we cut you, man. We're taking care of you. Don't worry about that. Mariners lifer wants some Brian. Woo!
Dude, he
Is
might be my
filthy.
favorite pitcher to watch.
And this is a great argument too. I see some of the guys on the live chat debating is I sometimes wish the Mariners would just go all in for pitching right now. Our hitting, I don't know if it's ever going to really get there. Make a strength a real strength. That's just another philosophical way to go about it. But we need these arms. If we don't have these arms, what are we? And so we really got to lean into these dudes. I'm actually happy we didn't trade Emerson Hancock. It sucks for Hancock that he's the sixth starter, going to spend a lot of time in AAA when he could be in a big league rotation on most teams. But you need a sixth starter that you can count on, and he's that dude for us right now. And inevitably, you're going to need more than six starters throughout an MLB season. And knock on wood, there's no catastrophic arm injuries.
Make you uncomfortable. We need him because when the Dodgers or the Yankees or the Red Sox back up a Brinks truck to Logan Gilbert,
That's my
I
frustration. I
yeah,
pitched
that's
a lot
it's
last
a.
weekend, but
I mean, I
we don't
hope not.
back. We don't want to look back and be like, oh, we should have gone for it when Gilbert's on Atlanta and Kirby's on the Yankees and Cal is on the Red Sox. We don't want to look back 5 years from now and that's the scenario saying, damn, we missed that window.
Can we keep both Logan and Kirby?
Probably not.
I agreed. I wonder.
Good.
Tyson
Here,
Baxter, the good one. I'm not happy Orioles didn't trade for Hancock. They could, he seems like he would help a lot of, and the Orioles are so good and so young. It feels like they just need that extra, just that little extra push. So I wonder if Kirby overtakes Castillo and LG this year. I wonder. His stuff is just so good. I wonder if now it's been a couple years, that third, fourth year seems like a lot of players, if they're going to be that guy, this is when it really just goes.
Mm.
If he comes out in the first, maybe not, maybe not the his first start, but I'll just say like maybe the first month, and is borderline untouchable, like we're seeing, like, oh, is this Felix again? Oh gosh, I think he has it because he's already been an all-star. I think he's got a chance to overtake both Castillo and LG as the guy.
And don't dismiss Miller or Wu either. This is what's
No.
so about this staff, though, is you damn well know there's a great friendly competition between those
Oh
men
yeah.
on who is going to have the best start that week, and they're all capable of just blowing your freaking doors off. But you're right. Let's see if they could take the next step. If those can Kirby and Gilbert be Cy Young candidates? Can Wu and Miller be All Stars? Can Luis Castillo maybe? He was good in 2024. Could we get a little bit of 22 or 23 Castillo again? That'd be really nice, also. So only time will tell. But as much as there's disappointment in the lineup, there's always optimism with the Mariners pitching staff right now.
Mulder, Hudson, Zito,
Yeah.
Smoltz, Maddox, Glavin. Can those three guys be one of those three that you just look back on in history and go, God, they had a trio that was borderline untouchable. I hope so, because gotta have something to cheer for as a Mariners fan.
Shoot. Well, Eric, we've been battling the snow and ice up here in Western
Mm.
Washington for the last couple weeks. It's time for some sunny freaking baseball, bro.
Are you heading down at all this year?
I am not. I do have tickets to 2 games already,
Nice.
and we'll talk off air. Maybe I'm gonna kick a couple of those tickets over to you and your daughter if it works out, man, just as a friendly gesture. My style is I try to find cool tickets at good prices.
Oh
And
yeah.
I got 2 of them in about the same spot, first row center field on a Sunday day and a Saturday day. First row center field. So it's not nearly as expensive as other spots, but a
Mhm.
really, really dope place to watch a Major League Baseball game.
Yeah, and she's at that perfect age where I definitely want to. We watch sports in the background when we're playing Legos and playing stuff, just because also sports, uh, for the most part, unless the microphone gets a little too close to the players, you don't have to worry about them in the background. All of a sudden a commercial or something comes on, it's just, F bombs everywhere and stuff like that. So I'm definitely trying to have a little fun with her. She watches football, baseball, golf, racing. Doesn't necessarily sit down and watch it, but she's like, oh, okay.
Mm.
So trying to get her to a live one because she's been to a couple Aqua Sox game when she's little, and this is kind of the age where you hear about baseball as this, America's pastime, the romanticism of baseball. Like this is the age where it started. I
Mm.
understand. I was loving the Mariners as a kid and didn't really get fully like just absolutely obsessed with it until probably, college days. But it starts somewhere, and to have a season like 95 keeps us going. Hopefully, as she grows up, the Mariners can have a season like that will keep them going and keep them interested because it is a great thing. And yes, it's just entertainment. There's no life or death out of it. But it's a good reminder that it's okay to have a little fun because baseball is the closest thing to life. You can go 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts, and it's a reset the next day, and you're 3 for 4 with 2 bombs. It is the closest thing that we have to hit the reset button the next day. You're good. Go for it.
Doesn't matter how bad your day at work was yesterday, you got to get up and do it again, no matter how good or
Mm,
how bad.
or how much ice there is on the freaking roads.
Well, thank the Lord here in the Pacific Northwest, it's warmed up and we've gotten some rain.
Yes.
Eric Neal, you are the man. Thank you so much for joining us, bro. Anything on your chest that you got left here?
No, I was glad to pinch hit tonight. Had a lot of fun. And RG, I still need to do one of these with you wherever you're at. My man, the myth, the legend. And hope you're
Well,
well, my friend.
we know for a fact RG will be back the next 2 Sundays. I know you'll probably be with
Cool.
your daughter, but just
Mm,
text me, man. Text me
will do.
anytime, and
Gladly.
because we'd love to have the trio at any point. We got Eric Neal. He comes off the bench like Jamal Crawford as the sixth man. Robert Ory off the bench, knocking down threes. That's what he does. Pinch hitting for my main man, RG, the greatest co-host a dude could ask for. We got to give the biggest shout out to Nashville, Tennessee, super producer Indy, rocking the ones and twos. That's Vaden Podcast Services. Vaden Podcast Services. They bring the show to life. Thank you so much, bro. We got to give a huge shout out, of course, RG. He's been a terror since the public school era. Can't wait to get back in the octagon with him next week. We miss you, big bro. Eric Neal, thank you so much for pinch hitting for us tonight, man. My oh my, it's another sports podcast. Get at us, people.
RG.